It was a busy weekend. There was, I think it was 6 shots fired throughout the city. One of them took place over on Baker Ave, 1900 block. So 1900 block of Baker Ave has been an issue for quite a bit of time now. One residence in particular over there, it seems to be drawing in some negative activity. So like I said, 1900 block of Baker Ave, there was shots fired. No suspect information, but there was an individual that was seen running into an address over there. That address we've already done nuisance abatement on back in January. Had the property owner come in, and she was advised to, it's her grandson that's the issue. She stated that he was going to be out by April 1st. I don't believe that's taken place, and like I said, now we have this possible suspect or possible individual involved in the shots fired fleeing into that residence again. We reprocessed nuisance abatement again today. So at this point, what it's going to do is draw in, because it's an infraction of them being having an issue with the residents twice in the same calendar year for nuisance. That's going to bring them in for a meeting with the mayor. Hopefully it goes this route, but with the mayor, chief of police, chief of fire, and it's going to be looking at, you know, further correction, you know, for that property, possibly up to the point of revoking the occupancy. That's a little bit more difficult because it's not like it's a rental property. It's actually, you know, owner occupied. So we're going to try to work though to get that process taken care of and this issue remedied, because we've not only had, like I said, the shots fired. We had an incident in the past where there was an individual who had been shot that ran into that address. We've recovered numerous stolen vehicles at the address. So it's a big issue. Overall this week there was about 100 calls for service in South Utica. No real crime trends other than the continuous cars being checked and people going into them. Our house was hit 2 days ago where someone broke into my sister-in-law's car and took like a Starbucks gift card. So it was nothing major, but still happening. Okay, so keep the doors locked. Check. You know, double check before you go in the house. Okay?
Were her doors locked? Or?
No, she left it unlocked, which I told her. This is the second time it's happened to her. Thought she learned the first time, but no. So, second reminder for her.
My tenants 3 times, like within 6 months. It's like you're asking for it.
Mm-hmm. And I understand you get caught up in things. I've got kids, and you know it's chaos half the time getting in and out of the car. So just check, double check. You know, be aware.
We
Okay.
make it like hopefully we lock it when we just walk into the house, but it's part of our like bedtime routine.
Mm-hmm.
Check the doors, check the car,
If you got the front porch light, keep it on. If you got motion lights, make sure they're on and activated. That sometimes deters it, but even now, we have it early morning where the sun's already up and they're going and checking vehicles.
It
So
doesn't deter them.
do what you can. That's all I can say. Make sure it's locked. Okay?
Can I ask you to address the question about ATVs and dirt bikes?
Yes.
And what the police are asking us to do is to always call them in, always to 911, which I know is a little counterintuitive because it feels like
It takes longer to do.
well, it feels like it's not an emergency, but I'm using that. I was raised as a kid, like, you didn't use 911 unless, like, somebody should be dying.
Yeah.
So, but use 911, and they will, but what the police department is trying to do is catalog all the places where we're seeing dirt bikes and ATVs so that they can build up a sense of where are they.
Right. That they are doing that, and then it helps too, because then we can refine the search. A lot of times we get more information that leads to
Right.
an exact address.
Right.
Then they bring me, you know, my coworkers as far as nuisance abatement in, and we go and address that physical address, speak to the owners, make them apprised on, you know, the laws. A lot of times we give them that information that, hey, your vehicle, you know, the ATV or the dirt bike gets confiscated, it's going into, you know, impound at our lot, and you're not getting it back unless you're paying $2,500 fine for it,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and you have to have proof of registration for it. So that is that aspect of it. The other aspect, it gives us, when you call dispatch and they're able to say, give it out as patrol information, and we can be on the lookout for it. We can attempt to try to stop it. We usually want to try to see what they've been asking people to do is if they see them gassing up, let us know. Then we can approach them when they're off the vehicle
Right.
or the utility vehicle and not lead into a pursuit, because we have a zero pursuit policy on it, because what happens is they flee, they end up wrecking up, now it's liability on our part. So we want to try to avoid that.
Right, we're not going to pursue them, and please tell your neighbors and your friends not to be frustrated when we don't pursue them. It's highly dangerous to pursue them, so we're not going to do it. But call 911 every time and give them as many details as you can. I called 911
Make
just
models,
yesterday.
direction
It's a-
travel.
Yeah, red heading east in a red ATV, etc. Give them all those informations, and all that will build up to, they'll know a lot about where they are.
Right. If you could give a description of it as far as the color,
Right.
size, so on and so forth, direction of travel, that's what we're really looking for.
But you can
What
get
What is the, for us not initiated with dirt bikes or ATV, I've never ridden one. What is the current law regarding, do you have to register these vehicles? Do you have to get insurance for them? Is there a different law between the city and Oneida County and New York State, or all that?
In the city, you're not allowed to operate them in the city, within the city lines. Other areas within Oneida County, yeah, and even Lewis, again, the Herkimer and Lewis County and stuff like that, some places allow ATVs on the roadway, that's fine, but they have to be insured, they have to be registered. Here, we still want to check to make sure that they're registered and insured, but even if they're registered and insured, they're not allowed on the city streets.
Nor in our parks. They are not, if you see
Or the
them,
parks.
if you see them heading up the ski hill, please call 911 and tell them they're in Roxville Complex. They're not allowed anywhere in the city, which I know that some people is frustrated by because they feel like this is a good sport for young kids, etc., and we're not letting them do it anywhere in the city, but that is the law.
Yeah.
They're really dangerous, and people take them on the streets, they're not helmeted, they're not insured, they're illegal anywhere in the city.
I take it, though, you don't have to have a driver's license, or do you?
I'd have to look into that, but in most cases, for instance, even like, for instance, boating, you have to at least take a safety course, get a boating license.
Is there anything like that for dirt bikes, or?
I'm not sure when it comes to just operating a dirt bike. Not just operating a dirt bike, because there's people that do it as sport and take it to a track and do what they got to do. But as far as those areas where they do allow them to go on the streets, I'm sure that they have to take a safety course to be able to operate. And like I said, have it registered and insured. Okay. But it's going to become, you're going to see it frequently throughout the summer.
Right. But so it's just really important to call 911.
Yeah.
Every time you see it, give as much information as you can.
And if you're
That's
driving,
how it works.
you're driving, you hear them, just, use your senses and try to avoid any collisions, because they're pretty reckless.
Right.
There was a discussion because that was all over SUNA page, and people messaging me, and I'm like, welcome to the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
All right,
a,
I'll just do it for you.
That's right.
thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I'll let you go first.
Sure. I don't have much tonight. I still have that vacant building registry law is still in committee, but we did at the last meeting have an expert from Albany who has a very similar law came and talked to the council about why he finds it very useful in Albany. So that was good, right? It helps people when they hear other cities having a similar law and using it well. That's the kind of thing that they like to hear. So I'm still trying, I still need to convince essentially the mayor. Not that he's a vote on the council, but he's the one who would be responsible for enforcing this. So if he doesn't think it's worth the resources of the administration to enforce, there's no big point in me passing it.
Empty law.
Right. So, but I think I'm getting him there. So I still have a little bit of work to do about that, and then I will be bringing that out in committee, hopefully at the next meeting, to have people vote on. I'm not going to bring it out until I believe I can get the votes for it. The other big thing that I've been working on is this ARPA, and I've told you about that before, so I'm not going to tell you too much more about that. This is the $200,000 each council district has gotten of the ARPA funds, and I am planning on doing a big sustainability, green infrastructure kind of project with it, and working with a number of local agencies who are helping me identify grants that we can apply for. And in order to make that happen, one of the things that I want to do is we'll be doing real grassroots engagement of people about what they want. So you know how Utica has South Utica has so many lovely little pocket parks? Well, I want to talk to everybody who lives around every pocket park to see, what do you want? And how do you use it? How do you want to use it? If somebody wants their kids to be able to kick a soccer ball in it, well, I'm not going to put it in gardens, right? So need to know how people use it. So the really exciting thing that I just nailed down today is that Hamilton College is extending the intern of 24 hours a week for 8 weeks. So I'm really excited by that. So, and one of the things that Eric is going to do is to talk to people in the neighborhoods. So expect to see him out and about canvassing. He's going to talk to everybody who lives around those pocket parks, but also I want him to get out there and measure sidewalks. I'm hoping that I can get some grant funding so that we can replace broken sidewalks. So as you know, I did convince the mayor to support us in passing a law to double the rebate for sidewalks. So it went from being $4 a square foot, now it's $8 a square foot. The going rate from contractors is about $14 a square foot. So I'm going to try to get some grant money and create a sidewalk fund that would cover the difference. So say maybe $5 or $6 a square foot. 6 would get you all the way up to 14. 5 would get you almost all the way up to 14. So and this is the kind of thing that an intern can help me with, because he can literally go out there and measure the sidewalks. So if you see someone out there with a measuring wheel, that's what he's doing, measuring the broken sidewalks and then approaching those homeowners and saying, hey, we're hoping for some extra funding to help you replace your sidewalk. I think sidewalks are really overlooked often as a means of public transportation, which is what they are. We use sidewalks to move around our city, but we do so, it's a completely non-motorized form of public transportation. So it's as green as anything can get. It's equitable, everybody can use it. Even if you don't own a car, you can still walk down the sidewalk. It's accessible, right? We're putting in everywhere in the city. We're putting in handicapped accessible intersections. So everybody can use the sidewalk, whether you're rich or poor, disabled or not. And of course, it's green. So those are some of the things I'm working on, and that's going to be my big summer project, is this project to use the ARPA funds and to use those ARPA funds to get more grants and to leverage that money up in order to do a whole bunch of things, including create, the one last thing I'll say is, we're going to create what I'm pretty sure we're going to call the Uptown District. So this is going to be an actual economic district. It would run from Rose Place, which is where Stathis is, down to Lion, which is where Roses and the Beer Hub are. So those would be the boundaries of it, and it would be Genesee Street, and it would be called the Uptown District. So just like, we have the Arts District in Oneida Square, and we have the Brewery District on Barrett Street, then we have the Uptown District in South Utica. And the Uptown Theater would be kind of the centerpiece of that, but we would extend it up and down the street in order to encompass other, local businesses, the Cafe Domenico and the Other Side Gallery and Slice Pizzeria and Stathis and then the Beer Hub and Roses, and all of that would become the Uptown District. And we would brand it. We're going to try to get some grant money to have custom fabricated bike racks. So again, green transportation. That would say the Uptown District, and we would put those along that length. And also in front of some of those locations, we would we might replace the sidewalk with permeable pavers. So these are pavers that let the water flow down in, and you get infiltration and keep water out of your storm drain system. So those are the things I'm working on. But like I say, just today I managed to finalize this thing of having an intern from Hamilton College, which is going to be really great. And there's a woman in South Utica who was on my little committee that I put together for that, because she knows a lot about permaculture, and it turns out that her actual professional experience is in intern coordination, which I've taught a lot of college students, and I've never overseen a single intern, but she has. So she's going to help me to just kind of make sure that he's using his time best, and make sure that we're supervising him appropriately, making sure that he's getting the most out of the experience, etc. So that's where we're at. So if you see somebody this summer around, that'll be our intern. And he'll introduce himself and pass out my card and make sure everybody knows that he's working for us.
What's the time frame on this? Is there a time frame that you have?
He's free June and July. So what I'm trying to do in the next couple of weeks is to create my infrastructure so that when he gets to us, he's ready to hit the ground running. So work with that intern coordinator to have a really clear job description for him. Have an infrastructure of I've now so many people various grants administrators from the Mohawk Valley Environmental Development District, I've been talking to about this stuff, so I need to have like a single document that has everybody's email addresses so we can find each other quickly, all of that kind of stuff. So, would people be interested in, if at some point over the summer we had a general town hall on this and we threw up a PowerPoint and talked about these different things that we're going to try to do? Or do people sort of feel like they've now gotten the gist?
I think a lot of people don't even know about it.
Yeah.
So
So
I
honestly,
honestly think that you should, maybe towards the end of summer or mid, because no one's,
Right.
everyone's gone during the summer, but I
Right.
think it's definitely something more than half of us help you with.
Yeah,
know about.
yeah, then I'll do that. And we could do a nice PowerPoint presentation. I don't know who of you gets my newsletter, but if you remember, the budget newsletter had this beautiful pie chart. That's a person right here in South Utica who just volunteered to do that. I went on Facebook and I said, can somebody do some pie charts for me? And then I said in parentheses, please don't tell me where I can go to learn how to do pie charts. I just need someone to make me some pie charts. And Maisie Jan, who lives down at the end of Prospect Street, said, I'll do your pie charts. So I'm going to ask her to do a PowerPoint presentation that will show the various aspects of this project that we're working
I
on.
think it's great that you reach out for help. I think that makes people want to be more engaged in the neighborhood. So
Well, that's true.
the intern
Thank you.
engagement of that, so
I-
kudos to you.
I appreciate that, Terry. I am a part-time council person. One of the things that I told Hamilton College this morning, I was meeting this new intern, and he said, so do you have an office somewhere? I was like, no, I don't have an office somewhere. He's like, do you have support staff? I was like, I do not have support staff. It's just me on a very part-time salary, and we don't have any support staff. So if I don't delegate, I can't do nearly as much. But I'm really glad to hear that it gets people feeling, yeah.
I mean, I think it's just wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Richard?
I have a question about sidewalks, but this is something that's existed since I was a boy, or you could say maybe Jesus was a boy. There are gaps. I'm not talking about North Utica where they built it like a suburban area with no sidewalks. I'm talking about in South Utica in the 3rd Ward. There are gaps where you're walking along a sidewalk and then all of a sudden, where do you go? A perfect example is this is, that as I've been confronted with it since I was a boy, is Eastwood. You cannot go on the sidewalk on Eastwood. And it's a very dangerous area because there's a V with Arlington Road. And if you want to come down Eastwood and go on the other side to Arlington Road, you really have to watch out. And the other thing is, when cars are coming up Eastwood, it's a bend. So it can be tough to actually see a person walking down. And so I'd like to know, I've wondered about this, is that actually private property there? Because as you're probably aware, there's like a wooded area and then there's like a lining of evergreens and then there's a big space and then there's the curb. I'm wondering if that is private, that space between the curb and that wooded area or treed area is the city's, or is that a private property? And so what I'd like to do is to, and I'm sure there's other areas that people can point to like that where there's sidewalk gaps that are kind of dangerous. I'd like to investigate that and see if we could do something about that.
So, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You said Eastwood, the space that I thought of was Kensington. And Kensington is like, there's a sidewalk and then just someone's lawn. And then 2 houses later, there's more sidewalk.
Yeah, that happens too.
People took out sidewalk at some point. So I did talk to, I have put together a small committee who's helping me work on this. And I'm all gung-ho about sidewalks. I just think sidewalks, especially in a city like ours, 17.2 square miles, right? We should have sidewalks. So for all the reasons that I said. When I said, let's sort of do the sidewalks everywhere, the response I got from my committee was, or from one person in particular, and I've accepted his view now, is that you start by repairing the sidewalks that are there and broken, right? And badly broken. Then you think about the gaps, where the gap is only 3 houses wide. Then You have to, over time, right? And then eventually you get to the point where everybody has a sidewalk everywhere, especially in South Utica. But if we try to do that too quickly, part of what would happen is that there would be people out there being really mad at me if we tried to force them to have a sidewalk, because now they have to shovel it and rake the leaves off it, etc. So I think we have to go a little bit more gradually. I'm completely with you in principle that there ought to be sidewalks everywhere. And as we think about adding sidewalks where none have ever existed, I think it's really important to think about what's our highest priority is going to be places like Eastwood and Arlington, where it's just dangerous.
Well,
If you live up on Eastwood, you can't just safely walk down to Genesee.
there's nowhere to walk on sidewalk in Eastwood.
Right. I don't know the question about whether that belongs to the city or not. The city almost always owns a right of way.
And there's an easement, yeah. Well, but I'm thinking in terms of getting the work done, can the city just come in and if they have money, just put one in, or would they have to work something out with the private owner? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. I doubt they would have to. I think that easement allows us to put a sidewalk in there.
But the thing, I agree with you up to a point. Where I disagree with you is that sidewalk should be put in where it's a matter of public safety.
Right.
And clearly, when you have no sidewalk in an area with merging traffic and you have to, there is no other place to walk, you have to walk in the road. That to me should come pretty high on the list over someone's property that's just, that the sidewalk is busted or something. To me, a high hazard trumps that stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's a reasonable argument. I don't know yet whether I accept it, but I think it's a reasonable argument and one of the things I think when we think about public safety, when all of us think about public safety, we think the people like Officer Sweet and our fire who respond to us in emergencies and keep us safe from violence and crime and burning buildings. That's what we think of as public safety. For me, public safety means knowing that there isn't lead in the paint of your home where your children live. It's about knowing that you can safely walk to the grocery store, whether you own a car or not, just because you would prefer to walk to the grocery store than not, and knowing that you can do it, or just walk because you like walking, all right? It doesn't even have to be for a particular end. That's also public safety. Public safety is making sure that, that we can walk safely everywhere. So I agree with you that the fact of safety itself ought to be.
Well, for example, let me ask the officer a question. I know in some states or cities, you can get a ticket for pedestrian in the roadway. Isn't that true? Okay, so theoretically, if I'm walking in the road on Eastwood, you could give me a ticket if you really wanted to stick to the law.
Theoretically,
Correct. Okay. So therein, I say that bumps up the priority.
Right. No, I do, Richard. I think that's a reasonable argument. Yeah, I do. I mean, look, Syracuse just devoted $4.5 million in a much geographically larger city. The council just approved $4.5 million for sidewalks in Syracuse. Ben Walsh, the mayor of Syracuse, has decided to really go all in for sidewalks, both in terms of creating and maintaining, but also then, in at least some of the city, clearing them of snow in the winter. We leave all that up to the private property owner. If I had all the money in the world, I would just put sidewalks in everywhere, including North Utica. North Utica they get screwed. They can't walk anywhere, right, without walking in the road. They don't have any sidewalks in North Utica until you get out to Herkimer Road.
Well, one last thing on that. Could you ask someone in the engineering department for that stretch of Eastwood? And I would think as you're coming up Eastwood, you would probably want to put the sidewalk on the left-hand side, because there's a sidewalk on the other thing of Arlington. In other words, because the sidewalk is on this way on Arlington, you wouldn't want them to walk across the street. How much it would cost for that area of Eastwood to put a sidewalk?
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's roughly $14 a square foot, including for a brand new sidewalk. I don't think it costs any more to put a sidewalk where there never was one than it costs.
Yeah, but somebody would have to measure that, no?
Yeah.
It's the same cost to replace one as it is to create one.
Right, exactly. So, and a typical, like my house is 50 feet wide and sidewalks are 4 feet. So a house like mine is 200 square feet. So you can do the math. I can't.
Okay, I've said enough.
2,800.
I'm not used to it.
That's very.
You gotta understand, I've been facing this for like 50 years now, so.
I can't picture what you're talking about at that stretch of Eastwood, so I'm gonna have to go put my own eyeballs on it, because
Okay.
that's how my brain works. So, but I'm gonna go look. Yeah, I can
We
think that's
ride
really
bike
good.
over there, so sometimes we like our son be on the sidewalk, but we
Right.
can't, we have to have him in the road, and he's now just sits, so.
Right.
I think that should be-
Yeah, I'm gonna go look at that, Eastwood, yeah, I'll look at that.
Have you put out there?
Yeah,
so-
parks. Because they don't play softball or any baseball in South Utica anymore. It's
Well,
Do they have a
adults-
reason
the
why?
adults, the adults do it.
Okay.
I mean, they go.
They don't have
Little
little
league,
league
minor league, you know, they go to them all, T-balls.
And we were just told tonight that Little League is practicing now at Proctor Park.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, that they don't utilize Wampler Playground. There's
Oh, that, yeah.
4 fields.
It's
5
created
fields
for
there.
Little League.
From my understanding, it was like back in the day, there was an issue with Southfield and Northfield, and there was one everywhere. And then everything's been grouped into one league.
Yes.
So,
Well, I went to the first practice with my granddaughter, and they had to play in the open field because there's not enough
There wasn't enough actual
fields
ball fields.
for them to play in. But when I went home, South Utica, ours, there wasn't a person in the park. But we heard it's because of the dogs. Now,
The dogs are
that's easy to
Terrible.
overcome, you know what I mean?
I mean-
Put up signs, have parks clean it for the meantime,
Can't they?
Is there a bag pickup there? Like a
Well, what they
bag
gotta
garage?
do-
No,
well,
no.
there used to be that, but they closed it because they're vandalized.
Well,
Right.
there was a dog poop bag there thing.
Oh, no, she's talking
Yeah.
outside bathroom.
No, yeah,
Right.
no.
Or dog,
Dog.
there's a dog bags too, so you should pick a dog. What the-
Yeah, you should have a space for
Yeah,
that.
I know that people. If there were bad dogs, just encourage it.
We
There's
should
not-
have
there's
a-
signs there too that say no dogs.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so.
Can they put a dog park in Ronville?
Talking about it.
They were talking about putting a dog park, but I don't think it's gonna
But then
happen.
the grass will grow really good there.
Can't they put a dog park at Bendix?
No,
They can't even do that? over
It's
there?
still being remediated.
no, you can't have anything like that on there because it hasn't been cleared yet.
That's something we need to talk about. Yeah. So we need-
Well, it isn't that, you're taking the animals going through that and then coming into your house.
and a lot of the issues with dog parks too is, you know, you gotta have control over which ones are allowed and whatnot based on vaccinations and stuff like that. There's a lot of disease that
Crazy.
goes around with it, especially with fecal matter and all that type of stuff, that dogs can get really sick if the proper vaccinations are there. And you're gonna have owners that bring them in there, whether they're, you know, supposed to or not,
But it's the same way at Wampler
I
Playground.
know.
I mean,
I know.
yeah, so it's just a shame that.
But are you saying, because I've never heard this before, the reason there's no Little League or baseball for kids is because of dog poop?
We've heard that the coaches used to have to go.
Oh, it's terrible.
an
Well, they
hour
would have
before
to go
the
and
game
police the area
to
before
clean
they have.
the
At least an hour to an hour and a half
fields.
ahead.
Yeah.
And every day of
I'll
the
look
week,
into it and
there's
then I'll
dogs
get you a
playing
Jason and I
on
will.
one field or another, because you can close the doors and they can just run in a closed in area. I mean, even Sunday, there was tons of dogs.
I mean,
No,
going by
we
the-
don't- we
you
can't
can't
have
smoke in
them.
the park, but you can let your dog run in the park and crap all over the lawn.
Well, that's just pathetic, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is.
And these are things, and topics like this, when we bring them up here, are great. If we get somebody in to speak on it, and then we give you the tools on what to do to go forward with it, you're
And
gonna have
that's-
to do that part.
What
you know,
can
so-
we do,
So we will look into that,
petition or
and
what,
then,
just to,
yeah.
you know?
Yep.
I mean, because I see them come in cars.
Oh, I see lots of
They
people
drive in cars, and
lots
they
of
come in,
people
and
like that.
park and take their dogs and put them in there and
Oh,
they
yeah,
unleash them
yeah.
and, okay, you go play, you know.
Yeah.
Half hour later, they hook them back up, put them in their car and drive away. Well,
Wow.
crap all over the place, you know. You go down Sunset Avenue, there's a guy, I don't know which number it is, but he's got a beautiful sign that says he has never said a word against your dog craps on his lawn. Let me tell you, how he gets away with it, I don't know the language he uses, and it's a big board. And it's just right in the corner,
It's just a shame that, you know,
and he gets away with it, but
the
they go to
kids,
parks.
some people have got to go all the way over to Proctor Park.
We'll look into that.
See, I don't know if also relates to the amount of people that are participating, you know what I mean? And that's why they
Yeah, that's
conglomerate into
probably-
one, you know what I mean? Because that's, it might be more due to a lack of participation overall, you know?
Yeah.
We have to look into that, contact the,
Yeah, but it's still a problem because that means that facility is underused by humans. It's used by dogs, but not by humans. That's what it was intended for. So, I mean, that's,
That park you should turn on their fountain.
so that's what,
Yeah.
that's what, yeah, they
They do
have,
turn on the fountain in the summer, because they do
Right.
have kids, they actually pay kids to go down there and turn the fountain on, and they
Yep.
have, like, little walls that they give out to kids. One of the things we discussed, that might be nice to have their summer clubs, more summer clubs, because those kids are paid.
Yeah.
And maybe that would open up more usage, so people are
They used to always
not bringing
bring
dogs.
big checkers and,
Right.
you know,
Every night
you
of the
grew up
week,
there.
every night of the week, there used to be minor league,
Yep.
little league games,
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth,
T-ball.
little league down the
Ice
road,
cream
little
truck used to
league.
come and park right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now you can't, you know.
You can stand there, you can buy refreshments, you know, watch the game.
Those are awesome things, and these are nice things that open up to come back up again, which we want.
Shit, that's one of the only parks around.
Yeah.
I
So
think
we
it's
look
out
for
there.
guidance.
You know.
All right, well, we'll look into that. Thank you. And of course, we'll see who we can get in to talk, and then if we give you the tools on how to move forward from there. And-
Yes, yes. Can we get somebody back from St. Elizabeth's?
We talked about that before, yeah.
Okay,
What's
but the
up?
thing is, we gotta pinpoint them down to say, I don't really like to hear stories. If I wanna hear stories, I'll go get some of my
Yeah.
playbooks. But I mean,
What about?
we have to talk about, what are they going to do with St. Elizabeth's?
They don't know yet.
Well, they say they don't know.
Well, we can
But
bring
the
in
trouble
updates
is,
coming in just
I
after
come
the
up,
update, whether-
the thing is, I've got an idea to put a whole bunch of, if they tear it down, they pay for all the asbestos, that's a nice chunk of change. Then we can put that up like, all the rich people does, because you have their garage and their houses, just like the gated community in there, all the way up. And tear down the garage. But there's many things that you can do. We don't need any more public housing. That judge that came in there made fun of all the people that are doing it, but he didn't go after me. Because I told him, I said, I have crystal ball, and I said, I will gladly tell you that it's going to be low-income housing. We don't need any more income housing. I developed that property up here with my in-laws, the 12 acres above, what is it called, Wuthering Heights. My brother-in-law, I bought all that property up there, Jones, it was almost 10 acres, and then we developed it up there. It can be done, but the trouble is, it's the friends and family around here, it's just unbelievable. And anything that comes out of my mouth will go downhill, and if I suggest it, then all of a sudden, about 9 years later, oh, it's a new idea. And I said, oh, okay, because I said, run the tapes, and it's just like for the Utica School District, and I can brag about, that you'll find this out with your son, that you have, my son got into the Marines and fit well into the Marines. Because he knew all the ethnic people, and when you go down to the Paris Island, it's it's just like you. I mean, the people who go into the Marines. And then my daughter, she liked it because they got to play the Syracuse teams. It's not Sequoia versus New Hartford, or when you go up and play those Syracuse teams, or Baldwinsville, I mean, they're ready to, they're ready to take that volleyball and put it down your throat. I mean, it's not, but my daughter got 400 spikes. She got the most in the league. But the thing is, there's many things that we can do to make St. Elizabeth's another thing, or even if they get that, they can make it into a veterans hospital.
Well, right now, we have no idea. So
Yeah.
what we could maybe do is continue to get updates until something does happen. I mean, we can bring someone in here, they may not give you what you want to hear right now, but if we can at least bring someone in here that will update us or stay in contact, we can do that.
Does your wife still work there?
Yes.
Did she go to the employee forums last week?
Wait, Orange?
Employee
Oh, no,
forums.
she doesn't go to nothing. She just stays in the cellar, and she does not, she minds her own business.
Okay, I do work there also, and we had employee forums. It was open up to every employee. It's morning, noon, night, weekends. Okay, she didn't, I just want to tell you, there's nothing more on what they're going to do with that hospital.
They have to be very careful because it cannot be developed because it's a wetland in the back. That's by DEC. They can't
But
develop
there's
it.
no, there's the asbestos, like you said, but there's nothing in the plans right now. I mean, not only would they have to, according to Darlene and our employee forums, get rid of the asbestos, but then you've got to sell it. It's not, I mean, you sound like people are gonna move in the minute the patients move out.
Oh, no, it's all torn down, as far as
I wouldn't even count on it being torn down.
Well, if it isn't, then that will mean South Utica will go. I mean, if you're going to have, it doesn't matter to me, because I'll be going down to Florida, or down to Lois pretty soon. But it's just that I don't believe a word that comes out of anybody's mouth.
I think we'll see what we can do. We can update whether we get someone who did your employee forum or whoever to help them with that. You know, we'll have them come in and give an update. Okay? We'll do that.